Nobody expected that message. Not like that. Not in private. Not without explanation. By the time Caitlin Clark stepped into NBC's spotlight, the basketball world was already seeing her differently. She wasn't just another rookie. She wasn't just another player finding her place. She had become something bigger, undeniable, and unstoppable. Inside WNBA offices, that shift didn't feel thrilling, it felt dangerous. At first, no one said it aloud. Public statements remained calm. Interviews stayed neutral. Press conferences were controlled. But behind closed doors, insiders saw a very different story: panic. NBC hadn't just given Caitlin Clark exposure. They had given her independence. And independence is something leagues can't control. That's when the first warning came: quiet, direct, personal. No announcement. No press conference. No confirmation. A message designed not to inspire confidence, but to remind her who was in charge. Kathy Engelbert didn't make a dramatic statement, but those close to the situation noticed subtle shifts. The tone around Caitlin Clark changed. Conversations grew tense. Meetings fell silent when her name came up. The league wasn't celebrating her visibility, they were calculating it.
Out there, they weren't playing with a whole lot of intensity. They weren't putting on the greatest show in the world, yet it was supposed to be the greatest players in the world. So fans started to not care about it. They didn't care about it because they're like, how can we care about it if the players themselves don't care about it? That's how it's starting to feel with the WNBA as well. And I think a lot of fans are with me on this. It's like, why should we care so much about the season starting on time or about actually having a 2026 season if it seems like the people at the table also don't care that much? And we can go back to that big meeting that they had when some of the biggest voices in the WNBPA didn't make.
NBC's involvement changed everything. Suddenly, Caitlin Clark wasn't confined to WNBA platforms. She was seen in NBA spaces, in front of NBA audiences, part of NBA conversations. And that blurred a line the league had always controlled. Because once a player outgrows the system they belong to, the system loses leverage. That terrified them. They couldn't stop her momentum. They couldn't slow her visibility. All they could do was try to remind her where she stood. At least, that was the plan, until Adam Silver got involved. He didn't react immediately. No statements. No public confrontations. He did something far more unsettling. He paid attention. Because Silver understood what the WNBA hadn't yet realized. You don't threaten momentum, you protect it. Behind closed doors, he started asking questions. Quiet questions. Direct questions. Questions that didn't need to be aggressive to carry power.
Concerned about the season being delayed, about a work stoppage, considering where we're at, but you can interpret it a couple of different ways. The WNBA players put out a proposal to the league that had some concessions on revenue share and housing, but not enough to obviously satisfy the league side of things. And the league responded pretty authoritatively and quickly, calling the proposal unrealistic and claiming it would lose them hundreds of millions of dollars. And that's where we're at, where it doesn't feel as if the league is going to budge much from its current position. So are the players going to move further, or are they going to hold the line? That's kind of where we're at in this moment in time. I received a statement from the WNBA. This is the statement.
Why was Caitlin Clark being treated like a problem instead of an asset? Why was her visibility seen as a threat rather than an opportunity? Why risk the league's fastest growing source of attention? Those questions didn't come with cameras. They came with consequences. Because Adam Silver wasn't just another executive. He was the NBA commissioner. And the NBA had seen this story before. They knew what happens when you embrace a superstar and what happens when you resist one. The difference is survival. The WNBA stood at that exact crossroads. Inside league offices, tension spiked. Once Silver got involved, this was no longer an internal conversation. Observers were watching, and observers changed behavior. Kathy Engelbert suddenly faced something she hadn't planned for: accountability beyond her own league. Silver didn't need threats. His attention alone was enough. Sponsors noticed. Media noticed. Owners noticed. And when owners see uncertainty, everything shifts. Because uncertainty affects money. Money affects power. Power affects control. What was meant to reinforce control did the opposite. It exposed insecurity. And insecurity spreads faster than confidence. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark said nothing. No public response. No confrontation. No escalation. She just kept playing. And that calm, that made everything worse for those trying to control the narrative. Calm doesn't read as
I don't know who's making the decisions at the end of the day as to what goes on the WNBPA's Instagram page. And then also during NBA All-Star Weekend, Commissioner Adam Silver, he said we're getting awfully close to the 11th hour when it comes to bargaining. And he also said that he's not ready to set a drop-dead date. But what I'd love to accomplish is putting pressure on everybody. And when he was asked about it, there was no optimism in his response. Like, it seems like he has been hearing what's going on. He's not necessarily at the table, but at the same time, like, the NBA is doing a million things. For anybody who expects Adam Silver to be in there day in and day out trying to micromanage the WNBA, it's not his responsibility. It truly isn't. He says that he has been involved and he's been keeping up with what's going on, but like, he's not going to be in there day to day. There's so many other things to worry about and be done with the NBA, and they're continuing to evolve and grow the game globally in the NBA. That's all that he's worried about. But when he comes out and basically says, like, we're pushing the 11th hour, which is what I've been screaming from the rooftops for the past month, and I'm done saying it. It seems like every indication is that the season is going to start late. I would be shocked if it started on time. I truly would. But that's coming from Adam Silver. Like, there has been no movement in the CBA. I am starting to not care. Like, let me know if there's a season. I would love to cover basketball. I would love to cover what all of these players are doing on the court. I guess you could say I'm a WNBA, NBA purist. Like, I firmly believe that WNBA basketball is the best basketball on the planet. I'm not interested in seeing a bunch of other things. Like, you can even talk about college basketball. Incredible.
they saw a player unshaken. They saw a player unreactive. They saw someone who understood something deeper. Momentum doesn't ask for permission. NBC kept inviting her back. NBA audiences kept tuning in. Media coverage kept growing. And suddenly, the warning looked less like authority and more like fear. Because you don't warn someone who isn't a threat. You warn someone who's becoming too powerful to ignore. Adam Silver understood that.
Question then is, do the players move further or do they take this all the way? And then the question on the second part of that is, in taking it all the way, do they gain an advantage? Is it a principled stance or one that brings in the results that they are seeking? And I don't know if the latter is actually going to be the case or not. As Brianna Stewart also put it, when you're in a revenue share model, as this will be a revenue share model of sorts, if there is no revenue, then you can't share it. So these are all the questions that need to be answered. Now, my hope, the pessimistic side of me says,